And black is, there isn't much we can do for them. We can make them comfortable and let them see how they do.
So what else do they have?
I just introduced them to the 17th and just talked a little bit about the triage stages. That's it.
So you know that triage started a Civil War, and so now it's a reverse order now. The first aid station was at the battlefield. Field hospital was set back 2 or 3 miles. Field hospital is the original MASH. From the field hospital, they either recovered at the field hospital or were sent to brick and mortar. 95%, better than 95% of any procedure was under anesthesia. So we're going to start with anesthesia.
And first I will determine if his heart and lungs are stable enough to...
Careful, he's got a chest wound.
Okay. Stable enough to tolerate the anesthesia. This is a monaural stethoscope, 1 ear. And his heart and lungs sound strong, doctor.
All right. He survives the leg wound. We'll work on his chest wound and see what happens. Let's put him under anesthesia.
Okay, and I will use, this is an ethicone. I have either chloroform or ether to use. Better than 96% of the surgeries were done, on both sides were done with either ether or chloroform. There are 4 stages of anesthesia. Stage 1, you can hear and feel what's going on. Stage 2, you can hear but cannot feel what's happening. Stonewall Jackson told his surgeons after his surgery that he could hear them cutting off his arm. He couldn't feel it, but he could hear. Stage 3, you cannot hear or feel what's going on, which is where you want to be. Some patients will, when they're going between 2 and 3, may yell out or thrash around. They will be held down if they thrash around to keep from falling off this narrow stretcher. The patients that are spread out around will see that and think that surgery is being done without anesthesia. Okay. So the ether cone is put over the patient's face. For this method, I use 1 to 2 tablespoons of anesthesia in the sponge that's in the cone. It vaporizes below and the patient breathes it. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes for it to have its effect so the patient gets to stage 3. So we'll fast forward here. In order to determine if he's in stage 3, I will brush my fingers across the tips of his eyelashes, and if his eyeball moves, then he's not in stage 3, and we'll wait a little longer. If his eyeball does not move, that means he's in stage 3. So the doctor can proceed with the procedure. He is ready, doctor.
Keep track because of that chest wound. I'm a little bit concerned about that. So what I want to do first is probe the wound. He's in anesthesia, so he's not going to feel anything. And the best thing I could use for a probe is my finger, since it's connected directly to the brain. So I'll probe around the wound and see if I can feel anything. Gotta cut it open a little bit more. Alright, there's something in there. So I got a Millicent probe. It's got a porcelain ceramic tip on it. If it touches lead, it turns gray, so I'll know if it's a bullet in there or if it's something else. Looks like a bullet, and it's about that deep. Thank you.
Got it.
This is a mini ball. It's about 1 ounce of lead, about 58 caliber mini ball. It does more damage than a musket ball does because it winds up spiraling, and as it tumbles and it goes into the body, it does a lot more tissue damage and has a tendency to shatter the bone. So I'm going to have to check to see if there's anything else in there or if there's any bones that were shattered. So I'm going to do a little more probing in there. Feels okay, there's no shattered bones, so we can save his leg, won't be any amputation. So we got morphine, so it's a topical, so we're going to put some morphine on there around the wound. We don't know anything about germs. Germs don't come around until like 1866, and that was in Edinburgh, Scotland. So we don't know anything about germs, so there's no, quote, sanitation or anything. We will put lint into the wound. We want the wound to heal from the inside out. The lint will absorb some of the fluids in there, and the dressing will get changed every 12 to 24 hours. The lint will get changed, and as the wound heals, we'll suture him up. So now we want to look at the chest wound. How's he doing?
His breath sounds are sour.
All right, one of the
Thank you.
check his eyelids, see if he's doing okay.
Oh, wow.
There's no movement.
All right. Well, let me see what he's doing. He's got something in there. See how he's doing?
Checking that.
I'm not hearing any lung sounds or heart sounds.
I don't think he's gonna be. Dinger, we have a patient for you.
Are you sure he's dead?
We didn't hear any breath sounds. Yeah, nothing's going on. I don't feel any blood in there, so I don't even have any spore here. Period.
Unless you want that. Okay, the first thing we will do is check to see if he paid for a burial package. If he did not, I will have a burial detail formed up. We will take him outside of the field hospital and we will dig a shallow grave, wrap him in an army blanket, we will cover it over, and we will post a wooden marker with his name on it. That's what the Army manual specifies. If he has a burial package that he's paid for, we need to deliver services for him, so I'm going to check for that first. Yes, he did pay for a burial contract, so we should perform an embalming on him. In 1862, embalming got to start as a funeral practice in the United States. Because of the Civil War, when we were sending soldiers home on the railroads, we used ice before the Civil War. It gave out while it was on the railroads, and the passengers complained because they were throwing up and passing out, and eventually they started rioting. So, doctor stepped forward and said, for $50 a head, we'll take care of your problem for you, Mr. Undertaker. And that is why we have embalming. Thank you. This is embalming fluid. It's made up of 3 preservatives, some sulfates and sulfites, some chemicals for coloration and liquidity, and a metallic salt, arsenic metallic salt. At the time of the Civil War, we were not aware that arsenic metallic salt passed the skin barrier. So, of course, it is no danger to me. To feed the fluid into the body, I need to locate his major artery where it leaves the neck and enters the shoulder because it is more stable in the shoulder. Thank you. This is a 3-needle process. The second needle goes into the major vein in the leg to allow his blood to drain. The blood is the worst part of your body that tends to want to rot. So we must drain the blood simultaneously while putting embalming fluid in, because you can't put embalming fluid into a collapsed vein. I draw the center ring up. When it's furthest up, it'll shut the intake valve and open the outtake valve, and when I push it back, the fluid will go down into the needle, and when I get it fully down, then this valve will shut and this valve will open. Now, I could spend 2 hours here pumping fluid into him, but we're going to fast forward. I will check after 2 hours to see what kind of discharge I am getting from the exit tube. If I'm getting blood, I cannot remove the needle. If all I'm getting is embalming fluid, I can remove the second needle. Now, I cannot remove the first needle because we must saturate his tissues with embalming fluid. And I will continue to pump to saturate those tissues. We will check to see if he's got enough fluid in his tissues by pressing on his tissues. If it bounces back like that, then I've got enough fluid in his tissues. If it stays depressed, I really do have to pump a lot more fluid into his tissues. So we can remove the first needle. I want that to drain so it doesn't. Okay, does anybody know what the third needle is used for?
Stomach. Letting air out.
Both right.
Both right, yes. Certain organs in the body tend to build up gas. It's called bloating. You must pierce the organ to allow the gas to escape. The smell tends to hang in the air, so you must listen to determine when the gas is through exiting. The reason for the large diameter in this tube is because once I remove that needle, I can't leave that cavity alone. If I do nothing, more fluid will collect in that cavity and cause more gas. I do not need an exploding corpse. Through that hole that I've created we stuff sawdust into that cavity and fill it with sawdust. The sawdust will absorb any liquid, and we'll put a fresh shirt on him, and we will send him home. Any questions?
And the surgery, medical procedures, embalming, undertaking.
How's your shot?
I had a question. What was the cost of that, like life insurance, or insurance for travel?
The burial contract?
Yes, the burial contract.
It could run anywhere from $100 to $5,000.
Really?
Yeah.
So that was a lot of money for those soldiers.
Yes,
correct?
most of your enlisted men could not afford the kind of costs I was charging.
I see.
Your officers came from the middle and upper class. They had the money. They purchased the packages. They were in the majority of those that were shipped home. It is history, just isn't in your history.
What did you do with the blood that came out?
I'm moving on a couple days. Is there a problem? I didn't know about biohazards at that time.
Anyone else? You want to thank our little patient here that's going to arise from the dead?
You were very good.